and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be looking at my top picks for the factions for Age of Sigmar 4th edition based purely on my opinion. So grab a brew, get comfortable, and let's get waffling. Yes, this video is about my opinion, no one else's opinion, my top picks, my 5 top picks, based purely on what I like the look of from the faction focus articles that Games Workshop have given us. This isn't a tier list. I don't understand why we're doing tier lists at this stage when we haven't seen the full faction packs and everything that each faction have got to do. So we can't create a meta from what is overpowered and what isn't, because we haven't got all the information. This is purely one-man YouTuber to just giving you his opinion on what I like the look of from the faction focus. So it's just going to be my 5 top picks, and then we're probably going to do a couple of honourable mentions, and then I'll tell you a couple of the ones that I think look really cack and gash. So, first things first, let's jump into number 1. That's right, my first top pick is Seraphon, and the Seraphon are a really cool faction that kind of has caught my eye, not only because I was already started collecting them, but because their rules are really good. And what do I mean? What do I like about them? Well, first things first, they really seem to be strong in the Magic game, which is kind of interesting and very different from a faction that I normally play, which is Cities of Sigmar. They have a lot of hit. Their units are pretty defensive, really good saves, really lot of bit of a combat output, and you know, they've got some really interesting war scrolls. Quite really impressed with how they're going to play, and really looking forward to seeing what their overall faction will look like once we get the faction pack. But from a glimpse, they are definitely piquing my interest. Really love the casting, love the slants. The old blood on a Carnosaur is just so good. Really love it. Can't wait to get that model on the table and actually see what damage it can actually do. And loving Sauruses and Croxagores as well. Croxagores being 6 health, and the amount of damage that they do is just bellissima. But anyway, they're really good. So what we're going to do now is jump into my second pick, which is Blades of Khorne. That is right, my second pick for my 5 factions that I really like from the faction focus is Blades of Khorne. And the reason why I like Blades of Khorne is very simple. Their blood type is very good. Bloodthirsters with the Greater of Axe of Khorne look insane, and I really quite like Bloodletters. Now, okay, I was a little bit disappointed with Blood Warriors, but having seen the Skull Crushers, the warriors riding the Juggernauts, and how much they look really good, I'm really kind of excited about what Khorne can possibly do as a really sort of smash army. They've got shenanigans afoot. Now, they were a really S-tier army at the end of 3rd edition, and there's many people complaining that they've been nerfed, but I don't think they have. I think what it is that there is no nerfing or balancing. This is an entirely new edition, so I think this faction looks really good and is really striking. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's my second pick. Okay, so number 3, my third faction that I'm really excited about is Slaves to Darkness. Wow, man, such a cool set of rules. Eye of the Gods table working on every unit apart from non-hero monsters and beasts. The mark system looks really good, pretty much coming directly out of 3rd edition. Demon Prince is being given a massive buff and such an amazing utility ability with being able to give a unit a roll on the mark of the Eye of the Gods table as though it wasn't, as though it's already destroyed a unit, is so good. You are going to be able to create some pretty meaty units. Let's just put it that way. I think it's going to be really quite nice. Chaos Knights look good. We haven't seen the rest of them, but I'm super excited about what this faction is actually going to be able to come out with. Like, I think a Chaos Warrior or a Chaos Knight heavy list is going to be so really nice. And not only that, but they are so really good models. Like, they got the big update with new models back in 3rd edition, and Archeon is just a beautiful model. So they are really good, and I really like them, and they get me super excited. So I'm expecting big things from Slaves, and they are definitely on my top 5 picks. Okay, number 4, and something that will probably surprise a lot of people, and that is my 4th pick is Lumineth Realm Lords. Yes, Lumineth Realm Lords. We've seen quite a lot of Lumineth Realm Lords already. They were featured in the battle report that's up on the Warhammer TV YouTube channel. We have seen quite a lot of their rules. We've seen them play. I think they look really, really strong, and I think they're going to be an army that is going to be, one, rewarding to play and actually fun to play. And the only real thing we've not seen is Teclis himself, which I'm really looking forward to actually seeing. For all of the factions, I think they look really, really good. And yeah, they are really super exciting. And not only that, but their range is really nice. They've got a really nice river unit that's come out of Warcry. They kind of look like the Harlequin type masks and stuff like that. They look really cool. So really interested to see what they can do as well. And just generally just really intrigued about what the faction is going to get and what new models they're going to get. And if Tyrion actually turns up this edition. But all in all, I'm super excited by Lumineth Realm Lords. Very highly picked, and I would, yeah, definitely, if I was going to start them, I would definitely do them. Okay, so now on to my final top pick. Okay, so number 5, my 5th top pick, last top pick, and this was a really hard one for me to do because this was between 2 other factions, which I'm going to be mentioning in my honorable mention, and this one is the Fire Slayers. I think the Fire Slayers look really good. And it's the one thing that I would say that the Fire Slayers lack is units, and I really hope that this edition they get given a couple of new additional units that are not heroes. There's just something really cool about them. The rules, the runes, how it works, and everything else. There's a lot of shenanigans afoot there. The Magma Drot are real beast. The actual Rune Lord on the top of it is a bit of a beast. But yeah, it's like they're a really cool faction, which really, when I read the article, I was like, oh wow, these are actually quite spicy and pretty good. Like I said, this was a hard choice. There was between these and about 2 others. So yeah, I think the Fire Slayers just tipped it just slightly. But we'll go into my 2 honourable mentions now, and then we'll look at my raspberries. Okay, so my first of my 2 honourable mentions, and these were the ones that just missed out on my top 5, and that is, straight away, we're going to be picking the Stormcast Eternals. Now, I think the Stormcast Eternals are going to suffer, obviously, later on in the edition, once Battletomes start coming out, just like Space Marines always do. But I think from initially and from the faction focuses, Stormcast Eternals look pretty good. They have got some really good abilities. Their ability to be able to deep strike onto the table is really solid. They can bring back a unit that's at half strength. They've got some pretty decent shooting. They've got some pretty decent close combat. They've got magic. They've got casting and prayers. Their heroes are pretty solid. They've got kind of everything, and they have dragons, and we all like dragons. Their chariots look quite good, although they have been nerfed since 3rd edition. All in all, I'm really quite impressed with the Stormcast Eternals, and like I said, they just missed out on that top 5 place. So we're going to go now onto my second notable entry. Okay, my last notable entry, and it's probably going to be a big shock to everybody, is Disciples of Tzeentch. I think this faction looks pretty cool, and I think it looks really strong. They have their Fate dice, Discipline dice. They have really good casting. Kairos is just an absolute monster. He's so good. The pink horrors and their shooting and everything else. I think the faction looks quite nice. Now, the biggest thing that we haven't seen is the Zangor side of things, the Enlighteners, the Zangors on foot, the Shamans and stuff like that, which I think is going to give the faction a pretty solid hit. I think out of all of the Chaos factions, they've done really well. Obviously not as good as Slaves or Khorne, but they were pretty much up there. Now, this was quite a hard one, obviously, because Nurgle is also a faction that plays very similar. The disease and the burn, the ward flame mechanic are pretty much quite similar things, but what really sort of tipped it me for personally was Kairos. Kairos is an absolute monster, and I would love to see an actual better mortal element added to this faction. I'd love to see a Chaos Warrior mortal element added to this faction in 4th edition, and that would kind of really sort of definitely make me potentially think of painting them. 1, I quite like painting blue, and 2, I quite like painting feathers. And so, you know, I could see myself doing an army, but the mortal element would definitely need to be sort of expanded on. But yeah, all in all, quite impressed with that. Okay, so my first of my raspberries, and these are the factions that I just read and were just not impressed with at all, and were kind of like not excited about at all. And the first one of them is OBR. I'm sorry, but they just weren't cool. They kind of have like an order system like Cities of Sigmar, but just not as good. Their ranged weaponry from their catapults just didn't feel awe-inspiring and great. Their stalkers just felt lackluster. They just didn't seem to have the damage. Now, of course, there's a lot of elements in the army that we've not seen, and that could be where the damage potential comes from. But all in all, I just felt like they just didn't have that thing. They just didn't feel like a faction that was really going to be inspiring me to play, collect, or paint them, and that was purely what I'm making my decision on. So yeah, unfortunately, one of my raspberries is OBR, the Osiarch Bone Reapers. Okay, my next raspberry is, and unfortunately, Hedonites of Slaanesh. This army, I feel, is going to suck bad. They don't... It's an army that just doesn't have any sort of redeeming factors. Their rules, their army rules itself, the sort of depravity point type thing, it isn't great. It doesn't feel good. It's a lot better than 3rd edition, but it just doesn't feel great. And I think that the only thing that this faction has got for it is a couple of their war scrolls looked decent, but that was about it. All in all, I think that this faction is a bit of a mess, and hopefully the Battle Tome will fix it. I just feel kind of sorry for it, and I see it as one of the sort of weaker factions coming into the edition, and that's definitely coming from the faction focus. So unfortunately, the notable entry is Hedonites of Slaanesh. Last but not least, my last raspberry is the Cruel Boys. This faction just didn't fill me with any sense of, ooh, this is cool. I kind of read it and was like, sounds a bit meh to me. Now, obviously, I don't play the faction. There may be Cruel Boy players out there listening to this and going, what is he talking about? We're amazing. We can do ABC. I just didn't see it. I just felt as though that it kind of was a bit meh, that there's not much in the way of sort of real coolness about the faction. And I was a bit like, yeah. Maybe that's because of the way that Games Workshop has presented it. Maybe there are really cooler war scrolls there that really shine and make the army look really, really good, and that we just didn't see it. So that is basically my raspberries of the faction pick. So that is my top 5, my honourable mentions, and my raspberries. If you agree, then cool. If you don't agree, then cool. Like I said, this is purely based on my opinion. This isn't a tier list. This isn't me trying to create a meta. This is just me telling you which factions really got me excited when reading the articles. You could have some ones that are completely different. Let me know in the comments and we can have a chat about it. You could also agree with me, which is cool. You could also disagree with me, which is also cool. Either way, we can have a conversation in the chat, in the comment section below. But just be like an adult. It doesn't matter. If your faction is good, if it's bad, it doesn't really care. We all know how this is going to work. Every faction that comes out, gets a Battle Tome, is probably going to be a little bit better than the one that came out before it. Unless it's written by the intern, and then it will not be. But this is Games Workshop, so we never know. We could end up getting the whole thing of they were terrible in 3rd edition, so they're going to be amazing in this edition type scenario, which kind of happened with the Genestealer Cults and the Sisters of Battle for 40k. But either way, that's it. So this is not a tier list. This is just my opinion, my top 5s and my raspberries and my honourable mentions. But either way, we will probably know very soon about what is to come and the meta to form when we get the faction packs, and I 100% think that we're going to be getting them very, very shortly. It's definitely this week before pre-orders open on the 29th. So if you like what I do, please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, and let me know in the comment section, and what you think, and obviously check out my members area and my Patreon. And I will check you out in the next video. Catch you later. Bye.